Hi, it's Mr. Anderson, and in this podcast, we're going to be talking about osmoregulation. Before we get into osmoregulation, we should define what osmosis is. Remember, that is diffusion of water across a semi-permeable membrane. So let's start right here. We have this U tube, and on this side, we have a high molarity of water, so a lot of sugar on this side. On this side, we don't have as much. And so basically, the sugar would love to spread out, but it can't because the sugar can't fit through the semi-permeable membrane, but the water can. So the water is going to flow from an area of high water concentration to low water concentration. And so basically, if you were to watch this, you couldn't see the sugar, but the water on this side would mysteriously raise and lower on this side. It would require no energy. If you were to do the opposite of that, so if you were to do reverse osmosis, we'd have to squeeze it in this direction, we could get pure water. And that's how you actually purify water. If you look on your water bottle, it'll say reverse osmosis a lot of the time. So how does this impact cells? Because in plant cells, it's okay for there to be movement of water because they have a cell wall, but for us, not so much. And so basically, if you were to take a red blood cell and have it sit in an isotonic environment, in other words, an environment where the concentration in the blood and outside the blood is the same, you're going to get a movement of water, but the blood cells are going to be happy, like they're pictured right here. If you put them in a hypertonic area, so if you put them in sugary water, then water is going to flow out. And you can see that the red blood cells are going to shrivel up. Likewise, if you were to put them in distilled water, water is going to flow in and they're going to pop or they're going to lyse. And so it's really important to the cells in our body that they remain isotonic. So what are the two life strategies? Well, the two life strategies are some organisms have just decided this is too much effort. And so what they are called is osmoconformers. And so an osmoconformer, like this octopus right here, the osmolarity, and so osmolarity, remember, is going to be the concentration of solutes to water, is going to be the same on the outside as it is on the inside. In other words, they're just going to be the same osmolarity as their surroundings. It's nice because they don't have to regulate that. The bad thing is that you're going to get big swings that can affect the rest of the organism. So a lot of organisms are what are called osmoregulators. Great example of this would be the brine shrimp that are found in salt water. Brine shrimp, and we would have some like in the Great Salt Lake. Basically, what they do is they have to regulate the amount of water inside them. So they live in a salt water environment. So think about where the water is going to flow. Is it going to want to flow into them or out of them? That's right, it's going to flow out of them. So they're going to, water's constantly going to be lost, so they're going to have to do a lot of effort. In fact, 30% of their metabolism just goes to regulating this balance of osmolarity. If we think about fish, or fish that live in a freshwater environment versus a saltwater environment, if you really understand osmosis, this is easy to think about. If you're a fish living in a freshwater environment, where is the saltier area? That's going to be inside the fish. And so basically, they're going to keep having water flow into them. And so they don't drink water. That's the blue here. Basically, they eat food, but they have urine that is really, really dilute. And that's just because they're going to have a net influx of water due to osmosis. If you move to a saltwater fish, so in a saltwater fish, we're going to have the opposite problem now. Now the salt water is going to have a higher solute concentration, and so we're going to have water that's going to keep flowing out of them. And so they have to actually drink salt water, and their urine is going to be really, really concentrated.